that we wanted to bring here to the table. And basically, this is called State of the Industry of different wine regions. And today we are picking out Argentina. And I have one of my dear friends who is in Miami right now. He's kind enough to come on here and talk about Argentina. And this is Ulysses Gonzales. And Ulysses, I call him Chef Ulysses because he is a chef in South Florida. So it not only are we going to talk about his venture because he's got a partner in Argentina. They started this venture down there, and we've been talking about his wines for quite a few years here now going on. But he's going to bring us up to date with what's going on, not only with his wines, but also with Argentina. And they have just finished the harvest. I believe we're talking about 2025, right? So they just kind of completed the harvest. As everybody knows, it's a 6 month difference in time between the northern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere. So we can talk about that too, because the grapes in Europe and California are just starting to kind of show up here. So it's kind of an interesting topic to talk about a 6 month in advance. But anyway, without further ado, I want to introduce Ulysses. He's been a dear friend of mine for a long time, and I consider Ulysses one of the foremost top guys in not only Argentina but South America. And he's had a couple of jobs, as if you want to say, as part of the selection committee for some leading wine importers in the United States for South American wines. So that's kind of how we first met. But anyway, good to see you, Ulysses.
Good afternoon, David.
Everything's
Thank you
going
for
great
having
with
me.
you, and so how's everything with you down there in South Florida? You doing well?
Oh, doing well, doing well.
Yep,
Towards the end of the season that we call it here. The,
yep.
yeah, before the heat gets to us. But yes,
That's right. Yeah. Well, we're up in New York today. Is like 65 degrees. So we're we're just starting spring. So, and I know your spring has already sprung a while ago. But anyway, so we wanted to at least I always do this segment when I talk about the past, the present, and the future of any kind of wine region or grape varietal. We're going to talk about two very interesting grapes in Argentina. And just to give everybody a heads up, most people know Argentina from Malbec, right? Ulysses, it's
correct,
kind of the staple grape, and in fact, you
correct,
make Malbec as well, and
correct.
it seems to be like the favorite flavor of a lot of Americans, I would say, right? They know Malbec. It was kind of an interesting grape that was brought to Argentina from France. So it's a grape that we know it grows in Cahors, and it's a very sturdy grape, but it's kind of drought resistant. It's also, if you want to say, really juicy and big, delicious red wines. So, but we're going to talk about Ulysses wine, but just to give you the past, the Argentina wine industry really started its roots in the middle 1500s when the Spanish missionaries, the Jesuits, right, brought
Correct.
grape cuttings and planted it in Argentina. Correct? I mean, so that's
Correct.
that's the kind of the uniqueness of the region was the Spanish first, and then of course you have a lot of Italian, if you want to say, descendants as well in Argentina, as so you see a lot of that Italian flavor too, right? In
Correct.
Mendoza with the
They
winemaking.
also brought clippings.
Pardon me?
The Italian immigrants also brought clippings
They
from
bought their
Italy. So
clippings, and we're going to talk about one of those as well.
correct.
So, but yeah, it's very important. And we also wanted to bring up a couple of snippets, right? I did some research, and Argentina is the fifth largest producer of wine in the world. And that's quite an interesting aspect, right, Ulysses? What's the
Yes.
culture of wine in Argentina? I mean, how is it? How do people, enjoy wine in Argentina for our American friends to understand?
You know, as a young child, you get introduced to it at the dinner table. Um, I would say you first get introduced to it as like in a sangria form, with some type of fruit juice mixture to it, cold, served cold at parties. But at dinner, it's like like Americans have a glass of milk classically, or some soda. In Argentina, you'll have soda, right? Sparkling water mixed in with wine and or 7 Up. Some like lemon lime, soft drink mixed with it. And then
So
it's
it's
just
actually that's fascinating because it's very much like Europe, right? It's like Europe.
correct,
Yeah,
correct,
yeah. And
correct.
so from a very young age, the Argentina children are gently brought into understanding about wine and food. I mean, obviously, at dinner time, steak is like premier in Argentina, right?
Correct. Well, I mean, that's also part of the diet. You have a diet that is high in animal protein, specifically beef, and so you need it, um, and the beef is not trimmed down from the fat from the actual muscle. So there's a lot of meat fat consumption, animal fat in that sense, and so you need a product, in this case, a beverage that has an acidity level that cuts through that.
Ah,
Of course, we're talking technicalities, but it's just something that gets designed through the culture. In this case, protein, meat, fats, and proteins from animals that you want that beverage that cuts through it and doesn't mask either the fat and vice versa the beverage.
that's the interesting thing too is when I was there and I was told about the steak, it's all the cows, eat the
Right.
grass, right? It's grass fed.
There,
It's not
everything's
like you're
grass fed.
feeding them corn and all this other product
Correct.
byproducts and everything. It's all
It's all
natural,
grass
right?
fed.
Natural.
Correct.
Yeah.
So
And
hence the
so
fat is consumed as well because it has those nutrients. It's a different color. It's a yellowish color.
yeah.
The fat, the gristle fat you see on steaks, it's you don't leave that behind.
Yeah, no. From what I heard from people in Argentina, and you can attest to this, they eat everything, right? Because
The
they
whole
make
thing. Yeah.
chorizo sausages or whatever
Correct.
beef.
Yes.
They use
Correct.
everything. So
Everything in the cow.
it's
Everything.
a
Everything.
fascinating culture. For a lot of people that don't know, maybe what we're talking about here too. So this is my map of Argentina, and sometimes I can just tilt my computer just a little bit here. And this is Mendoza, and the wine region that we are talking about with Ulysses is right here, Mendoza. And this is the Andes Mountains right here. And something that I did want to bring up was the importance of this mountain range, the Andes. But Ulysses, Mendoza here. What is the elevation of Mendoza? It's very high elevation, correct?
Very high. Very high. It's a great. I don't have the exact numbers, but you're you're talking wines that are 3,500 and meters or more,
That's
depending
crazy.
on.
That's
Yeah.
crazy. Yeah, but you're getting that cool probably air too from the Andes, right? I mean, as far as that's concerned. But one thing about Mendoza that I noticed, everything was green there. It was like just beautifully, and they grow a
Yeah.
lot of things, right? They grow a lot of fruits and vegetables.
A
It's
lot
not
of
just
fruits, a
wine.
lot of nuts. It
Yeah,
not
fine
only
nuts.
is not only grape the predominant business industry in Mendoza, um, to the eye, but the reality is its fruits are a larger market. All types of fruits, stone fruits, pears, apples, cold
Wow.
weather fruits, shall we
Yeah.
call, yeah, and nuts.
Yeah, it's just an amazing area, Mendoza. I mean, the whole of Argentina is amazing. We can talk about other areas at another time, like Patagonia and Salta and some of these other areas. But Mendoza is a true treasure because to me that is like the heart. That's almost like the Napa Valley of Argentina.
It is,
Yeah,
it is.
yeah. So we want to talk. We want to get into your first wine here, and I'm going to hold this up because this is a very fascinating wine, Criolla, right?
Correct.
Yes. So that's the grape varietal. So it's right on the bottle. But one thing that Ulysses and his partner is doing, this is a certified organic wine, right? So there's no
Correct.
chemicals, no pesticides, nothing that's added. So it's natural wine, what we call natural wine, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. which is very interesting and contains no sulfites. And that was something that we were talking about that sulfites in wine could give people headaches sometimes. So I mean, if you're
It
having
does, yeah.
wine, because I've had a lot of people that say certain wines give them a headache, and they probably might have a reaction to sulfites or sulfur. So this is something that's fascinating, and this is vegan, is correct? That was the other
Correct.
thing. Which so
Yes.
you've got the whole parameter here. This is vegan. This does not contain sulfites, and it's certified organic. And so and I talk about the present day Argentina. Is this becoming more and more prevalent in Argentina, where you're starting to see more of these type of wines?
No, there is a small group that are testing it. It's a younger generation of winemakers that are doing it. But the predominant old world vision of style of making wine is more predominant.
To the way.
So the clientele tends to, I mean, the winemakers and wineries tend to still follow traditional things, but it is up and coming.
Yeah.
I would say Argentina has the the foot forward on this in regards to South America.
Hmm.
A couple of places in Chile are marketing it, are playing around with it, and no one in Uruguay is really doing natural wines
No, that's
for
great
export
because
purposes, anyways.
I have so many friends. I have so many friends in France, in Italy, but mostly in France that are doing organic wines, and it's like cutting edge. Today to get back to the earth. Speaking of that, the name of the wine, 2A, is and we talked about this. This is an indigenous,
Yes,
if you want to
the
say
Mapuche
word,
tribe.
and it means what?
It's a Mapuche word. It means of the earth.
It means of the earth. Beautiful. That's a clever idea that you're using. So I want to hold that up. This beautiful wine. So we're going to taste this because I poured a little bit in the
Okay.
glass, and I want to talk a little bit about this grape because it's we had a chance to discuss this earlier that we thought that this is more of a grape that's kind of Argentina's grape, correct? It's like Malbec
Correct.
was imported, Cabernet was brought, from France. So even Torrontés came from a different kind of area, supposedly. But this grape kind of it's Argentina's grape, right? It was kind of if you want to say, a grape like that doesn't really grow too many places in the world, correct?
Correct. Correct. It got introduced to Argentina. Um, well, technically, the grape goes back to the mission grape, which were obviously called mission because of the first missionaries that came over. And it cross-gened with the Muscat of Alexandria.
Right. That's the
And so those
and
two
those are
varietals.
Torrontés, the Torrontés too, right? I think, right? Did I say
Torrantes
that right?
also right. The varietals originates from Spain, and then again cross pollinates with indigenous varietals. You find a lot of that in the United States, for example. With like the Norton and
Correct.
Sylvaner and
Yeah.
those type of varietals.
Yeah, the hybrids that are here.
Correct.
So this is fascinating, though. But in Chile they call it país,
In Chile, they
and
call it país.
in California they call it mission grape. So it's basically the same
Correct.
grape, but it's believed to be the descendant of a Spanish common black grape brought to Mexico in 1520 by the Spanish conquistador Cortez. Although so that's very fascinating. That's why I think a lot of Americans, and actually, because we do our podcast, and we're picked up, in Europe and also in Asia as well. So we have a lot of people who are following us, and we actually have people in Mexico that follow us, believe it or not, on our
No, that's
podcast.
awesome.
Yeah, so which is kind of cool. So, but that's a lot of people might not know that history. So, and it's terrific that you are kind of featuring this or focuses because I don't think that you see this in most stores in America, do you? I mean, it's
No, you don't. Not even in Argentina. It's as we were talking before. It's widely produced in Argentina. But because of the wine consumption and culture is so predominant in Argentina, it's your everyday drinking wine. It's the wine you grew up tasting, or varietals of it. Because um, there's also so the tinta criolla. It comes in a small grape, in a little berry, and in like a large berry. Sort of like how you have Sangiovese and Sangiovese Grosso. The tinta criolla are the same. So there's varieties of that same grape. Um, but we wanted to
So just to
showcase,
smell, when I smell this
the
wine,
grape of, Argentina's, shall we say, first grapes,
right?
and
Oh,
a
so
grape
this
that's
is one of the first prior to Malbec, right? I mean, if you want to do
correct,
that, yeah,
correct,
right.
correct.
No, but when I
And,
smell
and
this
it's in
wine,
and it's in every wine,
yeah,
in a sense.
yeah. So when I smell this wine, I get very different kind of notes of like cherries or something. It's a very
Correct.
it's almost like orchard. I call it orchard fruit.
Yes.
So you get a lot. It's almost like, and we talk about Mendoza having a lot of fruits, right? I mean, this kind of orchardy, very distinctive kind of smell, which is kind of the more in a fruitier style, maybe more akin to, I think you said Gamay. I think
Correct.
that was probably a perfect analogy to this wine, because you do smell this kind of orchard fruit on Gamay and Pinot Noir. So it looks like a Pinot color, so it's a lighter kind of color. I don't know if you can actually see this color, but
Yeah.
but I'm gonna taste this wine, and it's very interesting. It's got a lot of, maybe even chocolate kind of highlights in the finish,
Yeah, like a milk chocolate sweetness.
right? It's got that little bit in
Yes.
there.
Yes.
Yeah, which I think Americans would like, right? Because
I,
Americans love
I think they would
chocolate
love it. Yeah.
in their wines. This is absolutely delicious, and I think this was under $25 a bottle retail, right? I think if
Yes. I'm gonna say it's, yeah, like a 18 to 20
right.
retail.
So you're trying to launch this brand in the United States. That's why we're obviously doing this, so we can educate the consumer a little bit, not only on 2A, but about yourself, and because and we'll get a chance to taste. I really want to taste your other projects. So you're doing Cabernet Franc, which is
Cabernet
pretty
Franc.
cool. In
Yeah.
fact, we just got back from the Loire Valley, where Cabernet Franc is king, and Chinon and Bourgogne, and that's it's interesting, because you don't see a lot of Cabernet Franc from Argentina in the United States. So it's an interesting grape. But you're also, because you're doing a lot of natural wines, you're doing an orange wine, a Riesling, correct? I mean, that's something
Correct. An
different.
orange Riesling, and then we have the organic Malbec,
That's really
and those are
cool.
all stainless. Yeah.
Yep,
And the
yep.
reason they
So,
call it orange wines is that, we let the grape skin have contact with the juice,
yep,
so it has that orange hue to it,
right,
with from the Riesling grapes.
yep.
But
That's
it is a
interesting.
very, very, very dry Riesling.
Okay.
And the Riesling,
Um,
again, is not a varietal that's very planted in Argentina, and you do have some wineries who put it out there, and they do a good job of it.
yep.
Um, but it has that little bit of RS that folks
Like a
recognize.
maybe like a cabinet, like a German
I would say
cabinet.
like a Cabernet, right?
Okay. Yeah.
But mine is ours is very dry, very, very dry.
Okay.
Um,
Riesling's a very versatile grape too, right? You can have it with like spicy food, Asian food, right?
Correct. Yep.
Yeah.
Correct.
And and we're gonna get to the other grape, which I think is really very interesting. So this right here, though, yeah, I think Americans would really like this wine, Ulysses. And the reason why I say it's very easy to drink. I mean,
It is, and it's actually one of those, again, like Beaujolais / Gamay.
mm,
It's a wine that you could cool down, and drink right out of the refrigerator.
yeah, you
It's a
can put in
good
the
pizza
refrigerator,
wine
right?
on the boat, on the
Yeah,
dock. It's a day drinking red
yeah.
without feeling heavy. on
Yeah,
the
no,
palate.
it's this would go with a lot of like nice barbecue too. If you're doing barbecue
Oh,
on the grill.
definitely, yes. Those cherry flavors, those sweet barbecue sauces. Yeah, but it has great acidity,
Yep,
um, good enough to cut through that fat as well.
absolutely
Yeah, but it's a
lovely
very
wine, by
fun
the way.
wine.
So I think um, Americans would be interested in this. So it's a grape varietal called Criolla, which is, I know a lot of, I don't even think exists in California, right? I mean, it's called what, Mission, so it's a Mission grape, but you don't even see a wine called Mission grape in California
No, you
too.
don't. Yeah,
Yeah, so
not anymore.
that's quite rare. So, but I think also, isn't this kind of conducive to the climate in Argentina too? This grape, I mean, it kind of grows.
It is. It grabbed very well to it, and so, like I said, it's one of the first grapes that they're widely planted, and as you know, it's widely planted in Argentina till still to this day,
Yeah,
and still
absolutely,
utilized. So
absolutely fabulous. So that's something that we're really, I think is very promotable here in the United States, especially for people who are adventurous and people like me who like different grape varietals that nobody ever heard of. And again, this is kind of indigenous to Argentina, so it's really got a beautiful story to it. The second wine that we're going to taste too is Ulysses' other wine that he gave me these bottles, and so
and
I
it's
remember
a small production. I just wanted to put that out there too. It's a small
yeah, very.
production.
So this is all very small production. Of course, there's some big, gigantic companies selling their wines in the United States, like Alamos and some of these other people. But really, all they're doing is really selling mostly Malbec. So they're not really out there marketing other things because, I mean, obviously it's how they made their bones. They made their
Right.
business selling
Yeah,
Malbec, which is great, which is
it's
great. But
great.
so sooner or later, there's going to people say, well, does Argentina do anything else? And
Correct.
yeah,
Correct.
and
And
and even
yes, they do.
today, no, but even
Yeah.
today, it's kind of sad for. I feel bad for Australia because they hung their hat on Shiraz, and so
They all did. They all put their eggs in one basket for sure.
yeah, and that market's kind of dried up a little bit because and they don't. Most people don't realize, but they make a lot of wine in Australia. But it's tough. It's tough for them to crack the market back in. So I definitely think there's potential for this grape and the next one that we're going to taste, which is really,
Just to piggyback
really
on what you
cool.
said, I think there's always been those few folks in Argentina, um, like for instance, like my partner and I, who wanted to, still share what Argentina, what varietals that represent Argentina.
Right.
Some
Yep.
guys are the guys that are working with Riesling, the guys that are working with Torrontés, the guys that are working with Syrah, the guys that are working with Semillon.
Oh, wow.
Um, you know, Pinot Noir. We put Pinot Noir on the map for
Yeah. 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 You,
for other
you and
than
I were you and I
than
were
Chile.
talking about Patagonian Pinot Noir like 20 something years ago, right? I mean,
Yes,
the one with the hand on it. Remember which is
yes,
kind of
yes,
cool. And
yes.
I was like, oh my god, that's like the best Pinot Noir I think I've ever had, and
Yeah,
it was inexpensive at the time. So listen, and you're and I actually have to say this. You're the cutting edge of Argentina.
well, thank
Why
you.
I think that when we talk about Argentina, Argentina needs to grow exponentially into other areas of grape varietals. Because
Right.
it's great potential, but at the same time, you want people to understand. It's not all about Malbec. It's just not.
It, it,
It's
right.
it,
And
it's
Argentina's a
not.
big country.
Yeah, and you can say, hey, we make Malbec and it's fine, but by the way, we do other things. And
Correct.
exactly, I'm going to lead into this one because
Yes.
so this is a beautiful wine that I had a chance to taste early, and I'm excited about anchalota, right? And that's the
Angelota. Yes.
Italian, but in Argentina you say achalota, achalota.
Angelota.
Achelota.
Ancelotta.
So
Yeah.
this is an Italian varietal that grows mostly in Emilia Romagna. We were discussing that some of the most famous wine in that for Ancelotta is Lambrusco,
Correct.
and at one time Lambrusco and especially Banffy and and all of the
Yes.
like Celler and all that, people didn't know what that they were actually drinking Ancelotta, and
Yes.
they did not
Correct.
understand that. But this is a drier version of that, obviously.
Of the
So
correct.
and but it's a fascinating grape because it's basically covers quite a large swath of wines, and there's a couple of DOC wines that actually have Ancelotta in them. But we're going to talk about the Argentina Ancelotta, which I think is fascinating. So I got a glass of this. This is deep, dark, saturated, almost purple in color. And I'm actually going to hold
Yes.
up this wine so you can see on that he identifies the grape here, Ancelotta. And a lot of I don't even know if anybody in Italy does the grape, right? Singly like that. I don't know.
I don't know either. There's another producer in Argentina that just started with it. They're called the Perdices.
Okay.
Um, and they do 100% Angelotta as well, barrel aged like this as well.
Wow.
It's just a fun grape. The Italian varietals are starting to grab a name in Argentina. The people are starting to play with it. Obviously, Bonarda, is
Yeah, that's
another
another big grape in Argentina's Bernarda. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
correct,
And that was always a blending grape too, right? They blended that with a little Malbec
correct.
so I'm reading here that Ancelotta's skins have a high concentration of anthocyanins and therefore strong pigmentation. And we talked about the color. Look at the color of this.
Yes, that
Crazy
purplish
wine.
color.
And it's so much so that it's an extract from the grape is often used for food coloring as well because of this crazy color. So this is quite a versatile grape, but it's interesting here, and we can talk about this because this is a reserva, right? So you
Correct.
actually age this in barrique. I mean, I think we
And
talked about
barriques,
this.
correct. Yeah,
And
anyway, 3 to 5 year old barriques.
how many months does it stay in barrique?
Anywhere from 8 to 12, depending on the barrique, because we use barriques, 3 to 5 year old barriques.
This is a fabulous wine, and actually, another comparison that we were making, I was talking about that this is like Zinfandel in California.
Yes, you get that
It's like
smokiness, you get that
yeah,
that that
power,
that
structure.
spice.
Wow.
Yes,
If anybody likes big, bold, rich, heavy wine, and actually, the interesting thing about Argentina is the Italian heritage that's there. So this would go with the pasta, right?
totally. Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, we had lunch the other day, and you were having a bolognese. So this would probably go with
No, that would have gone great. Yeah.
yeah, because it probably holds up to like tomato-based the wines. But what an interesting grape because nobody's ever heard of this grape. I mean, maybe some winemakers. You get a lot of blackberry and plum and blueberry. You get cherries on here, so you get all different types of fruits. And it's kind of
And
medium
a good
alcohol, right? This is
smokiness, a
13 and a
sweet
half.
smokiness.
Yeah, you get
13
a
and a half. Correct.
smoky, like mulberry kind of
Yeah.
flavor out of the nose too. And to me, it's what I call high notes, it's like glycerin notes. So it really leaps out of the glass. I mean, it's got this presence that just jumps right at you and just is very inviting, very alluring. Those are kind of the words. And the legs on here, I don't know if anybody can see, but these legs on here are just oozing down the glass. And I'm like, wow,
It,
this
it
is really, really interesting wine.
it's a good mouthfeel too after, isn't it?
Yeah, so I'm gonna taste the wine. Silky tannins.
Yes,
Um,
so silky.
Nice acidity though. The acidity, I think
It's
it's
just
usually
just
like
right.
huh?
The acidity is just right. It's
Yes,
just
it's like it's right inside of the fruit. It's not
yes.
outside of the fruit because this is very full-bodied and a rich style of wine. But yeah, it packs some power. I mean, for me, if you're a Zinfandel lover, or Petit Syrah lover, or even a Cabernet lover, if you like Cabernet Sauvignon, and and you want something different and something that you can actually, something that you're get excited about. This Enchilota is a beautiful wine. I mean, right? I mean, it's just absolutely gorgeous wine. So I think that get cedar notes too from the barrel. So you get cedary,
Yeah,
kind of cedary qualities to it, and yeah, a terrific wine. So, but so this is wine. I think you said like 500 cases. So it's a very small production. Right now, you get it like a sweet spice, right? You get spice
correct.
tones,
Yeah.
which is fabulous. So, yeah. So this is not widely planted grape either, right? In
No,
Argentina,
not
you
at
don't
all.
see. So you
Not
don't
at
see
all.
this. So it's mostly Mendoza though,
It's just a Mendoza.
and you think it's because of the Italian kind of heritage in Mendoza that you
It's
see
totally
this
because of
grape.
Italian heritage, yeah. And this is planted up against the Andes in Luján de Cuyo, so you got your very high fruit. So that's why you get that fruit, that fruit flavor. That's
Yeah.
basically like that perfectly ripened cherry, a perfectly ripened uh, plum, and but you still maintain that acidity. It's like you just picked it off the vine, off the tree. You're biting into it, and it's just perfect.
I have to say, and I've tasted some Malbecs in Argentina. This blows away a lot of Malbecs. I mean, some of the Malbecs you might taste that they're kind of like fruity, but not so interesting. This actually has
And
more
short.
more depth and complexity, I think, than
Yeah,
than
no,
the
and this is,
average
I mean,
Mel.
this is one of those food wines that you want to enjoy, that you'd be good with enjoying it by itself.
I would.
Just because it's one of those bottles.
No, yes. You know what this would go with, and it's very famous in Argentina. I know you're gonna laugh at this, but don't they have like fried mozzarella? Like they fry it or something. It's like
Yes, 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 yes.
it's like an appetizer. So when you go to a restaurant, you order this. It's like a fried, like it comes out, and it's that would go great with this.
Oh, yes, the
Actually, it
provoletta.
would go great with food, with any steaks. So. But yeah, so a lot of people might not know this. I mean, South Florida, Ulysses is well known, but a lot of people don't know you for your background being a chef. So the first time we got together, you grilled up some steaks, and you did the famous. You have that famous basil kind of like stuff that you put on the steaks, right?
Right, right. Chimichurri,
You do your
the steak
famous
sauce.
chimichurri, and you could probably bottle that stuff and sell it. Call it Ulysses chimichurri. You know,
At
so
Ozzy's place,
which
I
is
remember.
just it's
Yes,
very basic, right? It's basil and olive oil, but it's got a beautiful
parsley, yeah, a little bit of garlic, some
that would
cumin,
hold up to
oregano.
this, because of the
Totally.
the spice, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is so give us a heads up. We talk about Argentina right now, and the dollar against the peso is actually very favorable for the American market, right? I mean, for
It's very
Americans to
favorable.
bring wines in, right? And
Yes,
so
yes.
so right now, they're going through their issues in Argentina, correct? I mean, you said
Correct. New
inflation is very
president.
high, right?
Inflation is very high.
Yeah, and
I mean, it was at
so
400%. It's now at under 200,
yeah,
which is still high.
that's very
But
high.
compared to, yeah,
Americans
compared
complain
to the
about
fluctuation
2%.
that's,
What?
yeah, we're complaining about, yeah, 2%.
Right now, everybody's complaining about, well, inflation's high in America. It's like 4%. Well, why don't you go to Argentina and see what real
Yeah,
inflation is? It's like, give me a break,
exactly. Yeah, exactly.
and it's tough. I mean, the market is tough for Argentina because it's very competitive. The world right now, there's so much, Italian wine brought in, but so underneath the tariffs and everything, which is challenging now for everybody. That's why I call it the state of the wine industry. And I love Argentina. I think it's one of the top winemaking areas of the world. I mean, it's like, and I've had a chance to go there many times. I don't say many, but at the same time, the times that I've gone there, I've just been blown away with the quality level of the wines. I mean, just amazing. One of the true top wine regions of the world. But again, a lot of people don't really know that. They don't know that Argentina, besides, the Malbec that they go to the store and see on the shelf, is kind of like the only snippet that they actually see. They don't see that Argentina has potential to grow other
For other
things.
varietals. Yeah.
Yes. So let me ask you
Even
another
Malbec
question.
itself.
I always bring this up. How is global warming affecting Argentina and the weather patterns that are there? Now we come across 2025 is the harvest that you guys just harvested, but 2024. Can you talk a little bit about how is the overall does global warming affect Mendoza right now? Is it affecting that area?
It is because I guess we in Mendoza, or in Argentina in general, but specifically Mendoza, we got pampered with perfect weather scenarios, especially during the harvest. It has desert areas like other provinces do. Um, yeah, very low precipitation, and we started to get the precipitation throughout the harvesting time,
Okay.
which always messes up the the cycle of winemaking in Argentina. Being so close to the Andes, being so up, you have that residual cold weather um, at night. With that mild humidity or higher
Right.
humidity, so that affects increases the rot,
Yeah.
other botrytis. Um, so that's what's been happening in Argentina. We're getting rain during the harvest season, and people aren't used to it, and people are
Oh,
scrambling.
that's
Um,
interesting. Yeah, that's
yeah,
interesting. But
there's a
actually,
lot of grape
so but
growing also. So there's producers who are focused on grape growing um, in lower yields to get better wines, and so that also affects, right? Like unlike Chile, it's unfortunate. It's a country that produces great wines, or all levels of wine, but their focus
fabulous
is
wines.
more.
Yeah.
Yeah, but their focus more is a business, you know.
Yeah.
So they're producing throughout the year, and in Argentina and Uruguay have both focused on quality. Um,
Well,
Uruguay
I'm
has the
actually
positive.
Um, I was going to say, I'm actually happy to see that you're doing Riesling and Semillon and some of these other grapes because I always tell people when I taste Chile that Sauvignon Blanc there is fabulous, but they're on the Pacific, and they get those cool breezes like California gets, and you got the Andes, which kind of is in the way, kind of blocks it.
It
But
is,
it's
yes,
but that's probably better for other things, which is like red
correct.
wines, like we're tasting here, red wines,
Yeah.
and you can probably grow more stuff in
I,
Argentina
I, I
because of
tell
that.
people all the time. I tell people all the time, that you'll see white from Argentina, majority be Chardonnays and Sauvignon Blancs. But again, those are just producers who have just followed the cookie cutter form of putting
Exactly.
out products that are sellable.
We think you're gonna we,
But
we, we think we can sell Argentina Chardonnay. Yeah, it's like you're
yeah,
right. That's kind
I
of
don't know
like
whoever thought of that, but
no, but
but
at
then
the
again,
same time, without really grasping the brass ring, which would be like we can actually plant different grapes besides that. And you're right. I mean, you got to sell the wines. That's the most important thing. We got
correct.
to
Yeah, at the end of the day,
you have to
yes,
sell the wines. But there's like a glut of Chardonnay on the market. I mean, so it's good to see that you are doing Riesling and you're doing Semillon and you're doing some of these other grapes because listen, this is the evolution of Argentina. That's why we're here. We're here to talk about the future, and I think the future for Argentina is to diversify as much as they can and don't be the cookie cutter grape varietals. You got to compete with the world at because and again, Torrantes, which I love and adore, kind of struggled a little bit in the United States. Kind of
it does.
struggled.
Yeah, it does. It
A
does.
lot of people don't understand it. I love it. 20 years ago, I was tasting Torrantes and I was like, wow, this is delicious. But maybe it didn't click with Americans, which is sad. But at the same time, if you're doing Riesling, you're doing Semillon, I think that those are, and I've had some really good Semillons from Australia. So, in Riesling. So Argentina has that chance to duplicate
Yeah,
what
and Viognier is
Australia
huge
did.
in Argentina.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. Well, I mean, listen. Before we go, I just want to just to show everybody, 2A. This is a brand that Ulysses is really trying to promote in America. We're trying to get on board with his brands. And if you have any questions, you can hit our question box on our Apple Podcast, on also YouTube. We're at close to 25,000 subscribers on YouTube, which is great. And so if you have any questions about Ulysses wines, just hit the comment button, hit the like button, and tell us what you think. And if you say, geez, it's about time somebody did something from Argentina besides Malbec, that's what we want to hear. We want to hear that there are
Yes,
people
that's what we
out there
want to
that
hear.
really take their wine serious and say, it's about time somebody talks about something other than Malbec from Argentina. So, again, this is the Grape Explorer, David Kohl, signing off with Ulysses Gonzales, and we want to thank you, Ulysses, for the time. And these are
Well, thank you.
fabulous wines. And I
Thank you
think
so much. I appreciate that, David.
I look forward to tasting the other wines. I would love to taste
Yes,
your orange
definitely.
wine. That's something for another time we can talk about orange wine, because I know that we have subscriberships on YouTube, and they really are interested in orange wine. So we're talking about the younger
Yes,
generation, right?
correct,
The
correct.
30-year-old people say, orange wine
Yes,
from Argentina? Sign me up."
yes.
So I think that we can talk about that another time. Again, great to talk with you, Ulysses. Signing off
Same
here,
here.
and we really appreciate
Thank you,
your time and
David.
everything like that. And we'll keep in
Thank you,
touch. Okay.
David. All right,
Take
brother.
care.
Thank you.
All right,
Be
buddy.
good.
Take care. Cheers.
Bye bye.